everyone for coming out today. Today we're here because there are individuals who have their hopes and dreams, their livelihoods, whether they can put food on the table for their families, pay their bills, all of that is on the line. And it's on the line because of a policy that is discriminating for no reason, a directive, a mandate that is discriminating against the people of the city of New York. Last week, our governor issued a press release saying that hospitalizations dropped to 410, a new low since March 16th in the state of New York. For 30 straight days, the infection rate has been below 1%. Municipalities around the state of New York were given a set of guidelines and metrics for reopening, and New York City, like every other municipality in the state, meets those metrics. As a matter of fact, when you look at the positive test results that have been reported over the last, just look at the last few days, the last few weeks, you'll see that New York City has a lower positive rate than some of the other regions around this state in which indoor dining is allowed. You can find at least two other regions, Western New York and Mohawk Valley, in which the positive rate is double New York City. And yet for some reason, the restaurants in our city are being required to keep their indoor dining 100% closed. Many other municipalities around the state have opened. We haven't seen any spikes. And the restaurant owners who are with us today are prepared, are ready, and want to get back to work, as do the residents of this community who want to once again enjoy indoor dining. We know a lot more about this horrible pandemic and this virus than we knew 6 months ago. And everyone here is committed to taking the necessary precautions and adhering to the safety guidelines that all the other restaurants, the other municipalities are abiding by. And so today we're here because late last night a lawsuit was filed against Governor Andrew Cuomo and against Mayor Blasio, and on behalf of over 125 restaurants and counting who have said enough is enough, stop discriminating against the people of our city. We are joined today by our attorneys. We are joined today by the lead plaintiffs. We have a Bklyn restaurant as well as Joyce's Tavern represented here, who are bravely putting their names on a lawsuit, knowing that there can be ramifications, as we're seeing happening to restaurants across this city that are brave enough to be speaking out against what is happening. I'm proud to be here today to join them and support them. And I'd also like to introduce my two colleagues who are here. We have Councilman Steve Matteo, our council minority leader. We have State Senator Andrew Lanza, and representing Councilman Joe Borelli, we have Michael Tanusis. And first, we'd like Councilman Matteo to say a few words.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for your leadership on this. Let's just be honest. The fact that we're here today is utterly ridiculous. That we're talking about not opening indoor dining. And before I just say a few remarks, I do want to echo Nicole's comments and thank the restaurant owners for putting your names on this lawsuit on behalf of your families, your customers, and all fellow restaurant owners. This is your livelihood, and I proudly stand here with you and support you. And I want to thank the attorneys and my colleagues Nicole and Andy for being here. We talk about numbers. They say follow the science, follow the numbers. And as Nicole said, over the last month, over the last 30 days, the rate's been under 1%. That is following the numbers. That shows that we should be opening indoor dining. Indoor dining should have been open 2 months ago, but even more so today with the numbers that we are showing. Follow the numbers, follow the science. That means open indoor restaurants. You can go to other parts of the state for indoor dining. You can now go to Jersey. And for most Staten Islanders, that's a quick 5-minute trip over a bridge to visit local indoor dining. So none of this makes sense that New York City does not have indoor dining open. The governor talks about having enforcement, 4,000 NYPD officers needed, or whatever the number he said. That's ridiculous. We are having a whole different conversation on public safety. We don't need the NYPD to have full enforcement on our restaurant. Our restaurant owners want to open with the safety precautions that are going to be put in place. Safety is number one. Safety is paramount. But we can open, and restaurant owners know what to do and know how to make sure that their restaurants are safe for their customers. That's what we're here for. The governor needs to let go of this arbitrary decision to not allow indoor dining and allow it today. Give us a date this week. Give us a date now. It's unfortunate that we had to have our attorneys with us to file a lawsuit. We shouldn't need that, but extremely, extremely grateful that they stepped up to the plate. On behalf of all Staten Islanders, we thank you for that. Extremely, extremely grateful for that. But we shouldn't have to be here. Indoor dining should have been open months ago. It certainly should be open now. So we urge the mayor, we urge the governor to end this arbitrary decision and open indoor dining now. And I want to introduce someone who's been a strong supporter in all this and a great friend to Nicole and I, our great state senator, Andrew Lanza.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Nicole, Mr. Canusis, the attorneys, Mark, good friend Lou Gelomino, and I have been knocking around since we're 13 years old, to especially the restaurant owners. You know, as Steve and Nicole said, we really don't want to be here. But one of the cornerstones of our democracy here in America is that an aggrieved party has the right to turn to the law, turn to the courts to seek redress, even when against the government. And that's what's happening here. You know, I'm optimistic. As Ronald Reagan said, you know, always be on guard and make sure that, you know, trust but validate. I think the governor has a tough job. I think he is grappling with very difficult issues here. And I do believe that he has safety on his mind. And I believe that he will come to the right decision here. As Judge Learned Hand once said, when he expressed his trust and belief in the eventual supremacy of reason, I think reason is going to prevail here. We can't let the patient die as we wait for its arrival. And that's what's happening here. Businesses and families are being destroyed. You know, Steve said and Nicole said, and I would imagine that it is a fundamental point of the lawsuit here. And remember, politicians aren't bringing this lawsuit. Constituents, business owners are bringing this lawsuit to really safeguard their livelihood, to really protect their liberty and their freedom. We're here to support them in that fight. You know, it's been said that what is happening now is arbitrary and capricious. And when decisions are made by the government especially that are based upon arbitrary and capricious reasons, then there is no law. There is no law. The law needs to be equally applied. And it's not happening here. As has been said, if it's safe to open restaurants in Long Island and elsewhere in New York, if it's safe to keep a Home Depot or a Lowe's open, if it's safe to allow people to go through Costco, if it's safe to have up to 1 million school children huddled together in crowd classrooms and eat meals together, if it's safe to have my daughter return to SUNY New Paltz, if it's safe to do all the things that the governor and the mayor are allowing to happen, then the numbers cry out, and the numbers demand that you allow indoor eating in restaurants. If it's not safe to do all those things, then you ought to close them. Of course, I'm not advocating that that happens. But people need to know that the way the law is applied in Long Island, that the way the law is applied in upstate New York, it ought to be applied here. And we keep hearing about the science, and we keep hearing about the safety, and we keep hearing about the metrics. Well, if that's what's guiding the decisions here, then you must open restaurants here in Staten Island. Because the numbers here, the metrics here, are so much better than all the places that are already open. So you can't have it both ways. And again, I think the governor's going to get there. And I think the governor is concerned about the safety. And so the two points of opposition to what we're doing here is safety. Well, I've already discussed that. Nicole has discussed that. Steve has discussed that. You'll hear that from the lawyers. As far as safety is concerned, we could do it safely here. We could do it better here. In fact, Staten Island geographically is more isolated, is more cut off, is more protected than any other place in New York State. You open on Long Island. They share a landmass with Bklyn in Queens. They're more dense in terms of population than we are. We could do it. We could do it here, and we have to do it here. So, while I think the governor is working, I think another reason why this lawsuit, and I think one of the fundamental points for this lawsuit is what we're hearing, the messaging from the city. You know, Mayor de Blasio just said that he's reluctant to open the restaurants because of the type of people that eat there. You need no more proof than that if you're wondering whether or not this is arbitrary and capricious. You need no more question what's happening here than listening to that. Because of the type of people that frequent restaurants. Is that science? Is that safety? It isn't. We're here, my colleagues in government, to support these attorneys, to support these business owners. Remember, we can't let the patient die here, and it's happening. It's happening, and it's irreparable. So this lawsuit, in my estimation, is the backup plan. It's the insurance policy. If reason doesn't make its arrival, as Leonard had always believed, well, then we're going to have this lawsuit, and we're not going to stop, and we're not going to quit.
In response to the mayor's comments, I think we only need to look at that sign. And this sign. And here's the other good sign that talked about being able to feed the families.
Right.
That's the one I was looking for. In response to the mayor's comments, you only need to read that sign. It's not just about the patrons and the proprietors, but it's about the 200,000 people that are out of work right now because this industry is being forced to shut down. And I'd like to introduce our attorneys who are leading the charge. Our lead attorney, James Revigis.
Good morning, everyone. Last night, we filed a class action on behalf of Staten Island and Bklyn restaurants in Richmond, right here in Richmond Supreme Court. We intend to file an injunction as well. There will be 2 class action lawsuits filed. The first one was filed last night, and the purpose of that lawsuit is to restore indoor dining for New York City restaurants in Staten Island and Bklyn. And the second plan with this lawsuit is to file an injunction where we're going to ask for an emergency hearing and allow the state to show cause or prove that there's science behind these random decisions. And I will demand the science in the injunction motion. Shows the science as to why so many people are suffering great hardship here on Staten Island and in Bklyn. I stand by there is no science. There is no science that a restaurant on Highland Boulevard in Staten Island, which is a suburban area, is more dangerous than a restaurant in Yonkers, New York, or in Garden City, Long Island. There is no science for that. This is random and arbitrary And that's why we filed this lawsuit, and we're looking to put additional pressure on the governor to get indoor dining restored for all restaurants here in Staten Island and Brooklyn. After we file the injunction and we get the emergency hearing, a second lawsuit will be filed for a takings claim. And what a takings claim is when the government regulation goes too far. The United States Supreme Court has ruled when government regulations go too far, it affects the taking on private property. Therefore, every business owner, restaurant owner could sue the government under the takings clause in the Fifth Amendment for just compensation for their losses. Obviously, this is a case of first impression. There's never been such a pandemic in this country that has shuttered businesses for 6-7 months. But there is relevant case law that can help our takings claim, and we intend to pursue that after we open indoor dining for New York City, Staten Island, and Brooklyn.
Hello everybody, my name is Mark Fonte, and I just want to thank everybody for coming, and thank all the restaurant owners who have gotten to know and admire and respect not only as business owners but as patriots. Our framers have developed a system of checks and balances, and last night at the stroke of midnight the first check started. We are asking for the judiciary to be a check on the executive branch. And with the brains of the operation, Mr. Marmita is behind us, and with the support of Nicole Malliotakis and the rest of our elected officials.
Hello everyone, I'm Lou Gelomino. This is personal to me. Obviously I like to eat, so that makes it personal. But these people behind us, these restaurant owners, the employees that work at these restaurants, these are our friends. These aren't our clients. These aren't our constituents. They are those things too, but they're our friends and our family members. These people are out of work, 200,000 people out of work. The restaurant owners that poured their life savings, they work 24 hours a day. I owned a restaurant. I owned the restaurant for 3 years. I can't believe the effort they put in. The margins were low before the COVID virus, and the margins are even worse now. This is personal to me because these are my friends and family that are being discriminated against. And I so appreciate the support. Let me tell you something. They didn't want to make this a political thing. They told me, every one of them told me, we didn't want to, we met 4 months ago. I talked them out of filing a lawsuit 4 months ago. I said, listen, the governor's going to be reasonable. The mayor's going to be reasonable. You're going to be open up in June. You're going to be, ask them. I talked them out of the lawsuit. You're going to be open in July. You're going to be open in August. Now we're September 18th, and we're still not open. They forced us to do this. So I want to thank all the restaurant owners. It's so refreshing to see Staten Islanders and New York City residents come together on one issue. On this issue, we're all uniform in this, together, and trying to get their livelihoods back open so the rest of us can enjoy a simple meal. I want to thank all of our elected officials, Nicole for organizing this, Steve, my old friend Andy Lanza. I have to tell you, they called me every day, and every single phone call that I called them, they returned really quickly. They united in this. My friend Mike Tanusis, who was running for Assemblyman, right? State Assemblyman. They got back to me so quick on all of these issues. They were really united in getting us in the forefront of the governor and in front of the governor and in the mayor and in front of the mayor. I also want to thank my friend John Tobacco, who, if anybody here on Staten Island doesn't know him, he leads the charge on every cause we have here in Staten Island. He's out in front, he's on Fox News, he's battling for Staten Island. He really is constantly battling Staten Island. I want to compliment my partner Mark Fonte, and a special thank you to James Mamikis. We spoke to him Thursday, and we had this lawsuit filed Tuesday. He's an expert in it, that's why we went to him. I want to thank you guys all for coming, ladies and gentlemen, for coming and supporting us also. And last thing, I want to introduce the two lead plaintiffs in this who really stepped up, because they are, a lot of restaurant owners are fighting for retribution here. They really, really are. I want to thank one of my best friends in the world, he's the manager of Bocelli's, Rob Hanley. Joel, who I grew up with, who lived across the street from me. So when I say they're friends, this is one of my best friends in the world. Joel, too, lived across the street from me. So when I say they're my friends and family, I mean that. Okay, I want to try to thank Rob DeLuca and Max from Excuse and Alley. Rob and Max organized IROAR, which they spent so much time and effort in coordinating, getting this group together. And we're suing on behalf of IROAR too, it's one of the plaintiffs. So it's Bocelli's, Joyce's, and IROAR. And I want to thank them all for really having the back of all your other restaurateurs. All right, thank you all for coming out.
Any questions by the members of the media?
Councilman Matteo, you addressed the governor's concerns about enforcement. Is there any kind of enforcement that you think would be acceptable in this situation? What would you like to say?
Can you say the last part again?
Is there any kind of enforcement that you would see as acceptable, and what would you?
Yeah, listen, there's no need for excessive enforcement to come and pull resources away. I have trust in our restaurateurs in Staten Island. Normal enforcement that we go through just on a daily basis is too much for them in terms of health inspections. I'm not saying don't do any. I'm not saying that we should have a conversation and dialogue, and we shouldn't be making sure that everyone's following the safe course. We don't have to go overboard.
Can I just step in and be a little salacious here? I don't know what that means. I mean, you have people in the city that are committing heinous crimes that aren't being arrested. I mean, are we really going to arrest them? Are they really going to arrest someone for having a cheeseburger? Listen, in the same way it's being enforced in all the other places that I mentioned, the retail places that are being, in the same way it's being enforced in Long Island and elsewhere, whatever they're doing now, these people want to do it safely. They care about their customers. They care deeply about their customers. They're going to do it safely. So this nonsense about, well, we've got to wait to see what the police are going to do about it, please.
So if I could just add one thing, because if you talk to any of these restaurant owners, they will be able to tell you stories about how they feel that they're being harassed by inspectors from all different agencies. It seems that the city agencies are not speaking to one another, and sometimes they'll send inspectors from multiple agencies within a single week or within a single day. And for things that are so nitpicky, and I'll allow them to talk to you about specific examples, but I mean, if a table's supposed to be 6 feet apart and someone now is sitting in it and it's like 5 feet and 9 inches apart, they want to hit them with a tremendous fine. And there's the type of tent that they're using, they were getting targeted for that. There's all sorts of different things that they can tell you that, just show that this is really, they're being targeted, they're being harassed, they're being, quite frankly, extorted for money to fill the city and the state coffers, and that's wrong. So we have to be reasonable. We want everyone to be safe. There are rules that need to be followed. There are guidelines that are set, but we need to be reasonable and at least giving them an opportunity to correct something before we all of a sudden hit them with a fine or attempt to take away their liquor license.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Indoor dining has been open throughout the state since mid-June, and there's been no COVID spikes in any of the other regions due to indoor dining. There's been no correlation whatsoever with indoor dining and spikes in COVID infections. So,
Could we hear from one of the restaurant owners just to kind of give us a personal feeling here? Your name, sir, and your restaurant?
Rob DeLuca, DeLuca's Italian Restaurant. I'm also one of the founders of IROAR. IROAR stands for Independent Restaurant Owners Association Rescue. We are a restaurant association that is based here on Staten Island and South Brooklyn, with about 180 members now stretching out to New York City, Queens, and the Bronx. I'm a restaurant owner for 3 years. I've been in this business 15. Besides my family, God, and my country, there's nothing I love more than my industry. And that's why I put in the hours that I do to make sure that we get ourselves open. I've been in constant contact with government officials. Hours of this summer have been wasted on phone calls, on negotiations. They've listened somewhat, but now enough is enough. We feel like we're being discriminated against. We're being bullied. And my mother told me, always stand up to bullies. Always stand up for people who are in need who are being bullied. So right here, this is the knockout punch for us. This is the lawsuit. We didn't want to do this. This is not us. We're workers. We work 100 hours a week. It's not a luxurious lifestyle. I have waiters. None of them drove here in a Ferrari today. We're not millionaires. We're barely the middle class. We're not the wealthy. You know, restaurant workers. You know, after that, our mayor 2 weeks ago had a very out of touch comment. Out of touch and insulting. What about the working man? What about the waiter? What about the busboy? What about the dishwasher, the bartender, the cook? Those are not middle class and wealthy people. To say restaurants are for middle class and wealthy is the most ignorant statement I've ever heard. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Enough is enough. We want to be treated fairly. I want to thank all of my colleagues, especially Max and Allison, Massimo Felice, Tommy Casatelli, and the guys from Hobart and Kettle Black, and many, many more who have helped be the founders of IROAR and get all the restaurants together. We started as 5 restaurants a few weeks ago. Now we're 180. We have a voice. We have strength. We're courageous people. We're not afraid. We're not going to get bullied anymore. And I also want to thank our attorneys, Mark, Lou, and James, for taking this on for us. I'd like to thank all of our elected officials, Nicole, Andy, Joe Borelli, Steve, some who are not here today, Diane Savino, Max Rose, Mike Cusick, to name a few. I have to thank all of them. They've gotten in touch with us in touch with the right people. But like I said, now I've had enough. We've all had enough. It's time to open indoor dining. Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio, open us up right now so that we can feed our families and that this worker who's been working in the restaurant business for 25 years can pay his bills and feed his family. Enough's enough. All restaurants in New York City who want to sign up to this lawsuit, go to IROARNYC.com. It's very easy. It'll take you under a minute to sign up. Thank you very much.
Everybody. Rob, tremendous display of passion. That's amazing. I'm Robert Hanley, the general manager of Bklyn Restaurant. I've held that position for 4 years. There's an awful lot of intelligence and rationale on display here today. Cannot thank my colleagues and supporters enough, so to speak, colleagues. One thing I like to bring up is the plight of our patrons and our customers. So it's not only us whose lives are in disarray and whose livelihoods, but they're unable to plan their events. They're unable to socialize properly now at a time when we could all use that to gather with your friends around a bar, to gather with your friends around a dinner table, to celebrate a birthday, to have a shower, a communion, anything at all. All of that has been on hold. And we are in complete limbo, and we certainly hope that the governor and the mayor recognize and acknowledge our plight today. Thank you all again.
Is there a worker who, you know, actually you might want to just tell us what it's been like for them?
Keep the message.
Sir, just your first name, where do you work, what do you do there? Sure. Step up to the mic, just a little bit closer.
Hi, my first name is Willard Gavidia. I work for the Lucas Restaurant as a floor manager. And unfortunately, after so many years working in the restaurant business, this is after the pandemic, and we're all concerned about what's going on, but unfortunately, this is the first time that happens that to us, and for me it's a little not too maybe concerned, but a little scary because I do have a family and I have children to support, and I would like Mr. Cuomo to please open up the restaurants
because we all need to work.
How are you making ends meet? Are you doing any kind of work?
Yes, actually, we are working at the moment, but again, we're coming up to the time that we might close, you know, or perhaps they have a 25% of capacity for the inside, which is not going to be a benefit for the owner or for ourselves. A lot of people are going to be losing their jobs if Mr. Cuomo does that, and unfortunately, that's not good for the economy, it's not good for the country, and it's not good for any of us.
Can you spell your first and last name, please?
First name is Willard, W-I-L-L-A-R-D, and my last name is Gavidia, G-A-V like Victor, I-D like David, I-A.
And what's your restaurant again?
De Lucas Restaurant in Amboy Road.
Thank you.
De Lucas. My boss is Robert De Lucas.
There you go. So for the attorneys, you filed a lawsuit Monday?
Last night.
Last night, and have you gotten a date for this emergency hearing?
No, the next step is to file an emergency order to show cause for an injunction, which will be filed hopefully by Friday, and we'll ask for an emergency hearing, and a judge will be assigned, and hopefully by the end of next week, we could have a hearing.
Okay. So, I mean, you're obviously looking to speed this up.
Yeah, of course.
Yesterday.
Yeah, okay.
So now going through a legal challenge might delay things even further.
Well, that's why we're asking for the emergency injunction. The judge is going to hear it as soon as possible. We're hoping to have it heard within 2 weeks. Normally it would take 3 years. We're going to have this done in 2 weeks.
Just to be clear, if an attorney does grant the injunction, indoor dining would be allowed in Staten Island, Brooklyn?
Yes, I think everywhere. I think once it's open in Staten Island, Brooklyn, I think it's going to have to be open everywhere in New York City. And there are some restaurants that we have also in Manhattan, I believe.
So you filed a class action on behalf of how many restaurants?
It's over 150 now.
180?
180, it's close to 180.
But the lead plaintiffs are from the 3 restaurants that you named.
Happening, well, 2 restaurants and the association,
Okay.
which is the other 178.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.